Hey, this is Notser, and this is Untitled. This week, I want to just touch on that I'm feeling a lot better than my last Untitled. I am talking to this person again, and it feels better. So we'll see how that works out. I shouldn't be as depressed as I was last week. If you watched my Untitled for last week, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But I'm doing better. I appreciate all the love and support. It means a lot. Now, having said that, we did down the line. We were doing the U.S. cruiser line, and oh boy, has it been outstripped. It was a real chore to play. Sometimes it was because I was bad, but most of the time it was just so uncomfortable playing them. They have terrible concealment, terrible range, they die very quickly. It's like the triple threat of failure. As a cruiser, that's not what you want. So that down the line video will be coming soon. I did do a Sunday stream, but when I was streaming, a couple people were talking about, down the line's really cool, but it doesn't help me as a veteran player. And I was thinking about it. Yeah, that's kind of true. If you've got every line or you've played through every line, you're really familiar with what they're trying to do identity-wise. And that makes sense. Down the line was never targeted at you. It was always a new player experience trying to get you up to date on what you could potentially play or play against. But, having said all that, this suggestion is one that is very intriguing to me. They wanted to suggest that I would explore all of the same tier type matchups. For example, tell me about all the tier 10 destroyers, their concealment, their rate of fire, what each one is good at, what each one is bad at, what you want to try and exploit, when to use AP, when to not use AP. All these sort of things that are very important, but get lost through all the different videos. You could get all that information from watching hours and hours and hours of footage from either streams or videos, but wouldn't it be nice if it was a video series that focused on these matchups, so right away in 5 or 10 minutes I would know concealment ranges, max gun ranges, torpedo ranges, what is mostly the focus of this particular line, what do they want to do, when do they feel like they have the advantage, when do they have a disadvantage in the matchup, when should I exploit that. All these things are really important, and they are absolutely explored, but in longer videos and isolated per ship. They're not going into detail about the whole type matchup, and I think that that's a great idea. So what do you think? Would you like a weekly video series that explored a specific type tier matchup? Does that sound like something that would be useful? There's a lot of confusion about some of the tier 8 battleships and how they play. What's the difference? You had the key and all that stuff, the turrets. What does this one have over this one? It's so subtle sometimes. That's what would be explored. I think it sounds great, and I think I want to do it. So we've got down the line, we've got this potential tier type matchup show once a week. I also want to have weekly new player, hey, did you know that smoke works like this? Or did you know that having a equipment set up that works like this is much more useful to you? Or making sure your posture is set up correctly. Some people don't know how to sit correctly in a game. And in World of Warships tones, hey, did you know that you can use this technique to understand exactly what this opponent's doing? Stuff like that. I really think it's important to share all the tips and tricks, either it be aiming or how long radar is going to exist. What would you do if you were in a scenario where a Soviet was using radar versus an American? It's a very different response. For a Soviet that uses radar, I wouldn't move at all. It just doesn't last long enough to kill you. And moving out of smoke is just going to throw that away. But for an American cruiser, absolutely you want to move out. It's too long. So these things are just tips that you pick up over time, and then you store them for memory until the end of time or something changes. Just like every single German destroyer up at, starting at I think tier 5 or tier 6 has hydroacoustic. What does that do to the game? How does that change my response to the game? That's all very important. And that's what I set out to do. I had a great game in a cruiser, a New Orleans game. You will see that as a cruiser spotlight, what I'm looking to do. And I think that's incredibly important for new players, old players, and everyone in between. I'm always learning. It never stops. And I hope that you are improving along with me, because that's the goal of the channel. It's always been the goal of the channel. I don't give a crap about showing you super high score with, 400,000 damage done. I don't care about that. I explore if anything is viable or not viable, and I'm not afraid to make a video about it if it requires it. But if it's so incredibly obvious that you don't need a video, well then, we'll just make a comment. Hey, inertia fuse on a DD, pretty bad. Unless you're an Akizuki. Then it's necessary, required even. So yeah, I'm enjoying making the content. I certainly don't feel like the content is at a point where there's nothing there for me to add to the community. I love talking to you, answering your questions, playing the game, all that stuff. I just get tired of obvious issues being allowed to exist, like the CVUI, like American aircraft carriers just feeling so underwhelming, the cruisers feeling like if you're not top tier or even mid tier, you basically are a sitting duck to die to enemy battleships. There's a ton of things that I think can be addressed, but wargaming has to want to address them, and that's the real crux of this whole argument. But I really enjoy playing the game. I really enjoy talking about the game. I do want to try and look at other games, right? I recognize that I can't survive on one game. It's just not healthy. It's just not safe. Should it be only streaming? Should it be extra stream days where I play other games? Should I add another game to it? I really like Overwatch, but I know that I don't play competitive, so people don't really care about my opinion. Even though it's incredibly important to exploit matchups. There is Warhammer Total War 2 coming out this week, and that's really exciting for me. Stellaris had a robot or an AI release, and that stuff's cool too. Obviously, that's not huge information. Most people, 99% of the people, watch my content because it's World of Warships. But I think I focus on the right things to improve players' performance. It's not about the little ones and zeros. It's about how do you approach the game? What are you thinking about doing in the game? How can I exploit this particular aspect of the game? If I could really recognize the rearm cycle of a ship to the degree that that 1 or 2 second would matter, and I could see that the DPS increase was 50,000 at the end of the game, well, yeah, but that's just not how large of a change it is. There's so many other RNG aspects that sort of protect from that stuff. So I've always wanted to help people perform better. That's very important to me. And there's other people who do this in other games. Day 9 is a good example for StarCraft and Hearthstone. Someone who really values improving the player's knowledge of the game. And that's absolutely what I care about. For World of Warcraft, it's about tanking. What tanks can exploit particular skill sets that they have? Some tanks are really good against magic or physical or fast or slow, big or small. That is important. And just like in World of Warships, that's everywhere. That's literally how competition works. I was looking at Rainbow Six Siege. Admittedly, I'm very bad at it. I don't have any characters because I don't know who I should get. I'm like, the defenders have a different play style than the attackers. That's great and all, but I have to learn like twice the amount of characters. I'm literally to the stage where, should I pick based on my main weapon too? Because main weapons are pretty awesome, and they work more than the one-trick equipment slot that they might have. Some might, I can see heartbeat when you're close. That's really cool, but I actually use the weapon far more than I use those traits. Some people could break through solid objects. Well, guess what? Don't really do that often. So I just need to get good, right? Play and learn and be comfortable learning, even sharing my failure. I really feel uncomfortable though. It's just one of those things, right? Where you put in the effort and you want people to at least pretend like they respect your knowledge. I know people always, even today, they made a joke about a nurse refuse high explosive. When, if you watch my content, you know that it's basically, you don't take this unless it's a very specific set. 150 millimeter to 155, and you are sitting at or near tier 8. Other than that, it's an irrelevant skill. It's too expensive. So I'm going to be hearing that for the rest of the time. That's cool with me, but I just think it's funny when it's very obvious that people don't pay attention, or they hear what they want. Someone else was talking about, I made a comment about a certain build that I liked like 2 years ago. Okay, that was 2 years ago. But I just watched the video. Yeah, I made it 2 years ago though. How is that as relevant as what I'm saying to you right now? It's, for whatever reason, we have this idea that someone has to have the exact same opinion they've had 5, 10, 15 years ago, and the more likely outcome is that your opinion is not going to be the same. You're going to learn. You'll either explore things that they add to the game or not add to the game, and that will inform you. Maybe 5 years ago, or not 5 years, the game hasn't been out that, but maybe like a year ago, I absolutely hated aircraft carriers, and I felt like there was no hope for me to be better. Well, recently, I feel pretty good about aircraft carriers, and that could be an aircraft carrier you get stuck on. I was stuck on the Lexington for so long. It was such a piece of crap. It's got to be one of the worst tier-for-tier aircraft carriers in the game. But as you move past it, you say, okay, I can accept some of these UI quirks if I have a little success here or there. That's how life works. You just grow and expand. It's like relying on a particular company to not screw you over, and then all of a sudden they're screwing you over. Well, I would be an idiot if I allowed that company to continue to screw me over. Right? Apple's not the same company it was in the 90s. It's not the same company it was with Jobs. You have to live in the moment and understand what's going on. You can't just rely on knowledge that you gained 10, 20, 30 years ago. That's just not realistic. If I didn't look up different techniques on how to communicate information, then I would still have that really crappy microphone. I would still have that really crappy original design scheme that I was going for with the channel, and that's not healthy for me. That's not healthy for you. So hopefully the direction I'm going is an improvement for the content. Hopefully it helps you out. I do recognize that some people are like, hey, I would like an AA slide for review videos. Okay, I agree. And then other people are like, man, why are you talking about the game? I want you to talk about the ship for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, I just showed off all the stats, and I discussed that it's basically this particular ship. I show the game just so people have something to watch. I don't intend for you to continue to watch the whole thing. If you just want to see how the ship performs, you could go on a website or even read an article if you want to just see the numbers. You know, I like to talk about how it feels in the moment. Does it live up to the numbers game? And that's important to me, because you can say this ship should be good, but when you're actually playing it, it doesn't feel good. It feels awkward, but it's got a really high RNG ceiling where sometimes it'll work, sometimes it doesn't. It's all about everything coming together and forming a ship and a line and a type that you really enjoy. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.